Welcome to Real Crusades history. Bohemond of Taranto, Prince of Antioch, was the eldest son of the southern Italian Norman Robert Guiscard. He started out as one of the poorest leaders of the First Crusade, eclipsed by prestigious nobles like Hugh of Vermandois, Robert Curthose, or Stephen of Blois. However, through his military genius and political savvy, Bohemond ended up as the most important figure in the First Crusade, up until the capture of Antioch in 1098. Bohemond was baptized Mark, but his father started calling him Bohemond, after a fairy tale giant. It turned out Bohemond suited the young Mark perfectly, for he ended up a very strapping lad indeed, whose physical prowess became famous. The Gesta Francorum, a chronicle written by a knight in Bohemond's army, describes how Bohemond decided to join the First Crusade. But Bohemond, powerful in battle, who was engaged in the siege of Amalfi on the Sea of Salerno, heard that a countless host of Christians from among the Franks had come to go to the sepulchre of the Lord, and that they were prepared for battle against the pagan horde. He then began to inquire closely what fighting arms these people bore, and what sign of Christ they carried on the way, or what battle cry they shouted. The following replies were made to him in order. They bear arms suitable for battle. On the right shoulder or between both shoulders they wear the cross of Christ. The cry, "God wills it, God wills it, God wills it," they shout in truth with one voice. Moved straightway by the Holy Spirit, he ordered the most precious cloak which he had with him cut to pieces, and straightway he had the whole of it made into crosses. Thereupon most of the knights engaged in that siege rushed eagerly to him. Returning again to his own land, Lord Bohemond diligently prepared himself to undertake in true earnest the journey to the Holy Sepulchre. One of the chief sources for Bohemond's life is actually a Byzantine princess, Anna Comnena, who was 14 when Bohemond's army was passing through her father's capital city of Constantinople. Stephen Runciman believed that Anna was somewhat taken with the dangerous, fierce Crusader prince. She left a vivid description of him in her book, the Alexiad. Bohemond's appearance was unlike that of any other man seen in those days. His stature was such that he towered a full cubit over the tallest men. He was slender of waist and flanks, with broad shoulders and chest, strong in the arms. In general, he was perfectly proportioned. His hands were large. He had a good firm stance, and his neck and back were compact. The skin all over his body was very white, except for his face, which was both white and red. His hair was lightish brown. The man had no great predilection for long hair, but cut his short to the ears. Whether his beard was red or any other color I cannot say, for the razor had attacked it, leaving his chin smoother than any marble. However, it appeared to be red. His eyes were light blue, and gave some hint of the man's spirit and dignity. He breathed freely through nostrils that were broad, worthy of his chest, and a fine outlet for the breath that came in gusts from his lungs. There was a certain charm about him, but it was somewhat dimmed by the alarm his person, as a whole, inspired. There was a hard, savage quality in his whole aspect, due, I suppose, to his great stature and his eyes. Even his laugh sounded like a threat to others. Such was his constitution, mental and physical, that in him both courage and love were armed, both ready for combat. His arrogance was everywhere manifest. He was cunning, too, taking refuge quickly in any opportunism. His words were carefully phrased, and the replies he gave were regularly ambiguous. As he led the Crusader army through Asia Minor and into Syria, Bohemond demonstrated incredible strategic ability and generalship. Historian Warren Carroll describes Bohemond's prowess at the Battle of Dorylaeum. The first blow fell on Bohemond. The giant Norman was made for moments like this. As the hard-riding Turkish horse archers filled the hot air with arrows, Bohemond gathered his men into a circle. He rode round the lines in his armor, thundering to his men to stand or die. Here, deep in the infidels' country, there could be no surrender and no retreat. Defeat meant death. Meanwhile, his messengers rode for their lives to the other column, summoning it to his aid. Raymond of Toulouse brought it up at once. The First Crusade made Bohemond perhaps the most famous knight of his generation. Through Bohemond's cunning, the Crusaders were able to capture Antioch by stealth. For Bohemond, who spoke fluent Greek, was able to strike a deal with a Greek-speaking Armenian guard on the city walls. Because of this triumph, the Crusaders granted Antioch to Bohemond, and the city became the capital of his Principality of Antioch, which was ruled by Bohemond's descendants for the next 2 centuries. Unfortunately, none of them proved to be so talented and capable as that legendary warrior of the First Crusade, Bohemond himself.